Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to the Super Breakfast Friends Club.
It's a place where we get together and talk about conspiracies we've hatched.
Yeah. What's this week's conspiracy, Mel? What's on the cards?
Well, as we were discussing earlier, we are going to block out the sun so that we can charge a premium for people to experience sunlight.
Oh, I didn't realize we were going to do that. I thought we were worried someone else was going to.
Yeah, we were worried they were going to get to it first.
Oh, no, I see what's happened. I think I brought it up as a fear I had, and then you were like, "Oh, that's a good idea."
Exactly.
I didn't realize that you thought I was presenting an idea for a business. But
Yeah, well, we were in a business meeting at the time.
we're always in a business meeting.
Yeah, that's why I'm a little confused that we weren't quite on the same page, but we're up to speed now.
Yes, sorry. I took a moment out of the business meeting to share my real life fears with you.
I liked it.
I
We're
forgot I forgot
really
that we're
empowered.
not friends, we're just business partners.
You forgot that I've taken all of your fears and turned them into a product that I then try to sell to you.
You said that was deodorant. No wonder I'm so scared all the time. Q Bert.
Take a cue from the cube. Hey, it's Q Bert. Take a cue, me and you. And Q Bert, me and you. And Q Bert, me and you. And Q Bert. Whoa, Q Bert, baby, down in Q Bert. Whoa, Q Bert, you're my favorite. Whoa, Q Bert, you're my favorite.
I forgot that's why we were here. I thought the business meeting had started again.
No, we're here to talk about Qbert. Did you know, Mel, that it's
No.
Q that well, it's Qbert's 40th anniversary next month.
Wow, who's he married to?
Cubina.
I thought you were gonna say the company that made him, but
Oh,
I will accept that as well.
okay. Gottlieb.
I love that. It's just a little man named Gottlieb, and Hubert married him.
Yep. What did you think about the opening?
It was something that my eyes saw.
Yeah.
When it opened up and was immediately a 50s flashback, my body shut down and I died for about 30 seconds.
Well, I'm glad that you revived again. I'm so sorry that happened.
Yeah, I had an extra guy, but I'm running out.
I thought the song was pretty catchy, although I don't remember it, even though I heard it earlier today.
Yeah, I don't remember it either.
But I thought the backgrounds during it were pretty cool. I liked they had square records that look round when they start spinning.
It didn't really occur to me how cube centric the world is because it's like, yeah, the game has the grid that you jump on, but the characters themselves aren't cubes. But
Yeah,
everything in this world is about squares and cube paraphernalia.
everything. It's yeah. No, I had the same experience. So I was like, why is everything cubes? And then I thought about it and I was like, oh, that is kind of what the game is, huh?
Kind of, but when I think about Cubert, I think about his round bald head.
Yeah, and his funny noodle nose.
Yeah, that he honks out of.
Yeah, macaroni. It's like a macaroni covered in Cheeto dust.
For maximum doots.
Yeah. So Qbert was an arcade game in 1982, made by Gottlieb, as I mentioned already. Gottlieb is a pinball machine company founded in 1927, apparently.
By a man named Gottlieb.
I would assume so. They created Baffle Ball, which was the first commercially successful pinball machine.
What is Baffle Ball?
It didn't have any flippers. So it wasn't pinball as we think of it today. You
Right.
put in 1 cent and it gave you 10 balls, and you had to get them into holes. You would just like shoot them up the way you shoot up a pinball at the start of a pinball game, and you had to try and get them into holes, which still exists, but I don't think we think of that as pinball anymore.
Yeah, that sounds more like a pachinko type thing.
Kind of, yeah. They had tables like that in Shenmue 3 and they called it Super Ball.
Sounds a bit intense for what you're actually getting, but okay.
Yeah, I think they are. I think pinball. No, pinball's pretty intense. I guess.
Yeah, remember Cosmic Pinball that came default on all old PCs?
I do. Yep. I didn't play
That
it
was
much though, because I had Chips Challenge.
Oh, Chips Challenge. I
Yeah.
played both, but more Cosmic Pinball because I didn't need to go dig up a floppy disk to find it.
I had Chips Challenge. I had Ski Free. And I kept coming back to Ski Free. I know now as an adult that the Yeti that eats you in Ski Free was put there because of a glitch that meant that the game couldn't continue beyond that point.
But as a kid, you always try to outrun that Yeti.
As a kid, you're like, there must be a way past the Yeti. That can't be the end of it.
I've done something wrong and summoned the Yeti. How do I beat this game good?
Yeah, but that was the end of it. You were supposed to die there because the game literally couldn't continue.
Oh, Ski Free.
It was fun. You can get Chips Challenge on Steam now, and I'm always tempted because it's not that expensive.
It's usually like 99 cents or something ridiculous.
Yeah, I should
I've
just
thought
get it,
about
shouldn't
it.
I?
No.
I've
You-
got that's 99 cents I could spend on candy.
Chips Challenge is actually free.
What?
Chips Challenge 2 is $5.
Oh, okay.
But who played Chips Challenge 2?
Yeah, I never even heard of it. So, take that, Chips Challenge too. And your female protagonist.
Get out of here.
Oh, Chips Challenge went woke.
It's a sign of the times, man.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get political.
Chips Challenge is the one that got political.
So anyway, pinball tables originally didn't have flippers. Flippers were invented in 1947 because pinball was outlawed in the US.
What?
Yep, pinball was outlawed in the US because it was a game of luck. It was seen as gambling.
Oh.
So the flippers were invented to add a skill element and make it legal again.
I love that for pinball.
So funny to me that pinball was illegal in America for a while.
Pinball was just as bad as hard drugs like marijuana.
So Gottlieb was bought by Columbia Pictures in 1976, which I didn't know. That explains why there was a Q Bert reference in the Ghostbusters game, though.
In the Ghostbusters game?
Yes, the one they made for the Xbox 360 and PS3, which was actually really good. I loved that game. But they had a Q Bert machine in the office, and I was always confused by it because I was like, this game is made by, I think the game was made by Atari, and I was like, Atari didn't make Q Bert. Why is there a Q Bert reference here? And it turns out it's because Columbia Pictures, who own Ghostbusters, also own Q Bert.
Oh.
But Columbia Pictures is now owned by Sony, so I guess Sony owns Q Bert now.
He's just had so many foster homes. Poor
Yeah.
little Q Bert.
Just cuts it all over the place. He
Yeah.
doesn't know whose
I saw
parents
Wreck-It
are.
Ralph. I know that he's homeless now.
Oh, yeah. How long have you known about Q Bert?
I would say the majority of my life, but I also don't know how it was that Q Bert stumbled into my life.
Okay, because Q Bert apparently was like super popular in the 80s. He was like Pac-Man and Donkey Kong level. But this is like before I was born, and the Q Bert hype had already died off by the time I was old enough to make memories. So I didn't hear about Q Bert until I think the Futurama episode with the invading video game people. I think that was my first exposure to Q Bert. I checked with my mom actually. I called her earlier today and asked her if she knew what Q Bert was, and she did. She described the game to me, so
So your mom is cool.
yeah, she knew about it because it came
Your
out
mom's
like
cooler than you are.
that was right when she was hanging out at arcades all the time.
Way cooler than you are.
Yeah, she's got more 80s cred than me. She used to go to the arcade all the time, and she will have been in her like mid to late teens when Q Bert came out.
And revolutionized everything.
Yeah, and she said to me that she doesn't know if she ever played it. She was mostly a Space Invaders girl.
She has class.
Yeah, but she definitely had seen it and she knew what the game was and how it worked.
I'm not sure that I know how it works. I think I've maybe played it like once. I couldn't tell you where. I couldn't tell you how. But I have some dormant memories of Q Bert in my head somewhere.
Okay, well, it's a pyramid of cubes, and you control Q Bert, and you have to hop onto the top of each cube to change its color to whatever color the game says they should all be right now. And it has a lot of characters.
Apparently.
I was surprised at how many characters Q Bert has, because it's got 3 different enemies that chase you around, as well as another 2 benign characters who hop around and just change the colors of the cubes back to what you don't want them to be. But they don't
They
hurt
know what
you.
they're doing.
No, they don't know what they're doing, and I think they were translated quite well into this show. But we'll get to that when we start talking about the show for real. But the game was designed and programmed by Warren Davis. I tried searching for information about Warren Davis, but I kept getting Warren Davis, the actor. But it turns out it's the same guy.
Oh.
Yeah. There's an
So
actor.
you found exactly what you're looking for.
I did, and I just didn't realize it because it was like IMDb profiles and it was like Warren Davis is an actor. I was like, this isn't him. I want Warren Davis, the programmer. But it turns out that Warren Davis, the programmer, is Warren Davis, the actor.
Wow.
He's appeared on House, Criminal Minds, and ER, as well as a bunch of other things.
This is another interesting and storied man.
Yeah. Apparently, he had the idea for the game after seeing an MC Escher-like image of a pyramid of cubes.
I love that. That Q Bert is born somewhere. He's distantly related to the crazy stairs.
Yeah. I love those stairs.
They're pretty cool.
I'd put those stairs in my house.
You'd never get to where you were going, but it'd sure be a hell of a lot of fun.
Oh, I'd get to where I'm going. It's just that no visitors would ever get to where they're trying to... They'd be like, where's your bathroom? And I'd be like, I'll just follow the stairs.
They'd wind up in David Bowie's Goblin Kingdom.
Davis apparently wasn't involved in any subsequent Q Bert products. Everything else that was made without him. Except he made a sequel right after the original called Q Bert Faster, Harder, More Challenging. That was the title.
Was it any of those things?
It was all of those things. Yeah, apparently.
Oh.
They did a trial run of it, but it wasn't very well received. It was too soon after the original and it was way too difficult, apparently. So
Too fast, too hard.
Yeah, exactly. So it never got a wide release until the 90s when he discovered MAME. I don't know if you pronounce it MAME or MAME, but it's the multiple arcade machine emulator. He discovered that people were emulating arcade games and he put Q Bert Faster, Harder, More Challenging online for free.
That's cool.
It's super cool. It was like 10 years after he originally made it, so it finally it's finally out there. So if you want to play the harder Q Bert game made by the original creator, you can just go find it on the internet.
If you're interested in losing your joie de vivre, go find Q Bert and his nightmare challenge.
I love that because I'm big on like media preservation, so I love that that's just out there, even though it was never released.
Oh, me too. That's why I'm glad that Chip's challenge is free on Steam.
I'm gonna download that once we're done here. But apparently, Davis no longer works in the games industry because he's an actor now, I guess.
He's on to bigger and better things.
He's not. He's apparently not very interested in the direction that video games took in the later times. I'm not sure what that means.
Right, like when specifically, because there's a lot that can be said for various decades.
There sure is. And also, I feel like at the point we're at now, there's like no singular direction for video games. Like almost any kind of video game you want is still being made.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I guess that's largely thanks to indie studios. I love how a bunch of indie studios came along and made all these like farming simulators and things, and then all the big budget companies went, "Hey, people like farming simulators." And now we just had a Nintendo Direct that was like 80% farming simulators.
Even though Farmville came out like 50 years ago.
Yeah.
You guys missed the window just a little bit.
Oh, the thing that bugged me about this Nintendo Direct was one of the many farming simulators in it was a remake of an old Harvest Moon game.
Mm-hmm.
And a bunch of Stardew Valley fans are like pointing at it and being like, "This game's such a Stardew Valley ripoff." And I'm like, "Oh yeah? Is that how that works?"
Oh no.
Eventually, you know, you wait long enough, eventually the original becomes the ripoff.
Right. You wait long enough and suddenly the new generation has no idea what came before.
Yeah. And Warren Davis also has a book called Creating Q Bert.
That's cool.
We keep getting sidetracked and I have to keep coming back to the same dude.
And he keeps doing more stuff.
I managed to find out his opinion on the show.
What is it?
He says he liked it because he likes anything that furthers Q Bert's reach. But he said that he hasn't watched a lot of it and wasn't particularly interested in watching it.
Yeah, I love it. Have I seen it? Absolutely not. Will I watch it? No, never. But I love it.
The Q Bert characters were designed by Jeff Lee, who did work on a few more Q Bert games. Apparently, Q Bert was actually created for a different game concept that was rejected, and he was originally supposed to fire projectiles from his nose.
Oh, see, that would make a lot of sense.
It would, and happens in the show, so... Jeff Lee also worked on a bunch of other Gottlieb games, and he did background art for the Home Alone Genesis game, which I bring up specifically because I really liked that game.
I never played that one.
That was a good one. You have to go around to all the houses in the neighborhood and actually set traps for the wet bandits. So it felt more Home Alone than any of the other Home Alone games, because we had the Home Alone 2 Super Nintendo game, but it's just a platformer. Doesn't feel like Home Alone.
You finally kill the wet bandits in this one. You put an end to their shenanigans once and for all.
You don't, but you hurt them a lot. There's a pain bar, and you have to fill it in each house.
Pain bar.
Yeah. You have to fill the pain bar in each house to get them to leave. And I think the whole game is just stalling as well. I think there was a countdown timer to when the police arrive, and you just have to like keep them from stealing too much. Every house had a pain bar and a loot bar, and you had to fill up the pain bar without letting the loot bar empty.
So Q Bert.
So Q Bert. So here's something fun that I found out. When they first made Q Bert, they briefly trialed it under the name I don't know how to pronounce this, so I'm going to spell it out. @ exclamation mark, hashtag question mark, @ exclamation mark.
I'm sorry, but I don't speak Q Bert.
Yeah, they changed it because it was impossible to pronounce.
Yeah. And because, like, in comics, wouldn't that just look like swearing?
Yeah, well, I guess that's what it was supposed to be.
The filthiest word that you can think of, that's the name of this game.
Yeah, I guess people would just, if you can't pronounce it, people would just, like, insert their own swear word, right? They'd just be like, hey, do you want to play do you want to go play
You played that game yet?
At the time, Q Bert was as successful as Pac-Man and Donkey Kong,
Mm-hmm.
but he has not endured in the same way that either of them have.
He doesn't have quite the lovability or the amount of games, no.
No. I want to say that Donkey Kong has endured the best of the three of them, and then Pac-Man somewhat less well well endured than Donkey Kong, but still fine.
I thought that Mario was in this running, and I was a little bit confused as to how Donkey Kong was doing better than Mario.
Oh, well, I mean, I guess I just kind of forgot that Mario was in Donkey Kong for a minute there. But apparently there was tons of Q Bert merchandise in the 80s. I went and looked at it. There were like bedspreads and toys.
I would kill for a Q Bert bedspread.
I still have my Sonic one from 1993.
Of course you do.
And my Simpsons one from the same era.
Do you swap them out periodically?
I think Mum does on my old bed, which is now the guest bed.
Grandma, you're going to be sleeping in Mike's old room. Would you like Simpsons or Sonic on the bed?
This aired on Saturday Supercade, which we've already talked about, so I'm not going to talk a whole lot about it. But I do have some things to say.
Do it.
For anybody who wants to know more about Saturday Supercade, you can go check out our Frogger episode, because that was another Saturday Supercade segment. But Q Bert and Pitfall rotated on Saturday Supercade.
I forgot there was a Pitfall cartoon, but you said that's lost media, right?
Mostly, yeah. I haven't been able to find... I want to try and find the first episode. If anybody out there has an old VHS recording of the first Pitfall episode...
We are not interested in quality. If you just want to stand in front of it and record a recording, that's fine.
Yes, please do. The first Pitfall episode was called Pitfall's Panda Puzzle.
Okay.
So if anybody out there on the internet has a VHS recording of Pitfall's Panda Puzzle, people are looking for it. It's not just me. This is lost media.
We beseech you. The lost media community beseeches you.
Yes, it looks like there are only 2 found episodes of the Pitfall cartoon. And they are the 3rd and 5th episodes, Raiders of the Lost Shark and Masked Menace Mess.
Pitfall.
But yeah, I would love to look at Pitfall. We don't, as low quality or as high quality as you can get, we just want to see it in its entirety. We'll be happy.
I prefer low quality.
Do you?
In this specific instance, I think that it would be extremely charming.
It does make the edit harder, as I found with Frogger. This Q Bert episode was in much higher quality than the Frogger one that I found.
It was in surprisingly good quality.
But yeah, so this show rotated with Pitfall. So the first 2 weeks of Saturday Supercade aired with Pitfall segments, and Q Bert first appeared on the 3rd episode, which was October 1st, 1983.
Oh, we're coming up on that anniversary too.
Yeah, we're coming up on what would that be? The 39th anniversary. The whole show has a 50s teenager aesthetic.
It's mind-boggling.
It's a very weird choice, and I found out why.
Please tell.
So, apparently, this was at the direction of Joe Ruby, the co founder of Ruby Spears Productions, and best known, apparently, as the creator of Scooby Doo and its characters.
Is that the part that explains it? Because I'm still confused.
No, there's more. So, according to Buzz Dixon, who was a writer for cartoons, he worked on Tiny Toons, Batman the Animated Series, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, as well as a bunch of other stuff. He did an interview on a YouTube channel called the JM Archives, which I listened to. And he and Gary Greenfield were tasked with creating a show based on Q Bert. And they came up with something that was kind of like Roadrunner in 3 dimensions. Because that's how they saw the game, as like a 3-dimensional Roadrunner. They thought it would have been very fun, and it was apparently very faithful to the game. But when they presented it to Joe Ruby, he took the presentation out of their hands, threw it in the trash, and said, "I want to do Q Bert as Happy Days."
That's my favorite story.
So the writers protested against this because Happy Days is nothing like Q Bert. That's
and
Buzz
what
Dixon's
80s
own
child
words.
wants to watch Happy Days the cartoon?
I mean, it was on.
I guess.
Wasn't it? Didn't we find out that like the same year as this, the other channel had like Laverne and Shirley and Fonzie in the army or something?
Yeah. Oh, I forgot all about that.
Like half the and the Mork and Mindy cartoon, I think, was on at the same time as well.
That's true. I forgot that the 80s is buck wild as far as cartoons went.
Like 90% of the airwaves was Happy Days shows, and they were just adding to it with Q Bert.
Hey kids, remember the 50s that you weren't alive for? Well, here's a bunch of media from it.
Yeah, they protested against it because Happy Days is nothing like Q Bert, but Joe dug his heels in, and then this is the show we got.
All right. It's not good.
This episode is called Disc Derby Fiasco, and it's written by Gary Greenfield, who I mentioned before. He also wrote for Yogi Space Race, Plastic Man, and something called The Adventures of Don Quixote and Sancho Panda.
Okay.
Don Quixote, like the animal coyote.
Not a mispronunciation.
Yes, I looked at the opening for it. It was weird.
A weird cartoon on this show?
In the 1980s? Who could have guessed?
So, is there anything in the game about these discs?
Yes, there actually is, surprisingly enough. There are 2 discs at either side of the play area. So if you get cornered, you can hop onto the disc and it will take you back up to the top of the pyramid.
Okay.
And these discs are actually, well, not these discs, but Q Bert's disc specifically is very faithfully drawn to how the disc in the
Looking
game
like
looks.
a Simon board.
Yeah, you can tell that the writers were still trying really hard to include stuff from the game, even after being told to make it Happy Days.
Well, I guess I can applaud the effort, but not so much the outcome, because I was very confused.
I was confused. We talked a bit earlier about the cube-centric world. So we open up immediately at Cube Pizza, which is not a great name for a pizza place.
And it's right next to the Q Burger.
Yep, and there's a big billboard for Cube Cola.
And they're listening to Cube Rock.
Yep, on their cube-shaped records. I never thought about the cube pyramid as being representative of the world that Q Bert lives in. But I mean, I guess his name is Q Bert.
I guess, but I don't know.
He's the spherical boy, though.
He's a round boy. But like this whole mess starts off because they're telling us Q Bert is the favorite to win the disc tournament. And this whole time I'm thinking It's like ultimate frisbee or something.
Yeah, me too. I also love. So we're introduced to like a million characters here. There's this huge table of like 50 Q Berts just sitting there. At this long table, longer than any table I've ever seen in a real pizza place.
Yeah.
No,
And they don't tell us any of their
right,
names
right. Not even one of them gets named here.
except Q Bert.
There's actually one of them whose name I couldn't find out. Like even researching on the internet, I couldn't find out her name. So I have no idea who plays her because I don't even know what her name is.
That's fine.
But yeah, they tell us about an annual disc derby that's coming up. And I think it's really funny that Cubert's sitting there and he explains to his friends that the first prize is 10 tickets to see the Electric Cube concert at Funlands, while he's sitting in front of a poster which says exactly that. And then all his friends cheer as though they're hearing this for the first time. So I assume none of them can read.
Well, one of them, well, I guess maybe she didn't know, but she does assure us that the most totally cubular rock groups will be there.
I don't think I really took that in because I think the whole time I've been thinking of Electric Cube as being the name of the band that they wanted to see. But I think you've just made me realize that it's supposed to be the music genre.
Yeah, I was thinking it was something like the Madison Cube Garden in Futurama.
That would make sense. So we have Q Bert here, who's played by Billy Bowles. He played Pinky in Pink Panther and Sons. That's the main of the Pink Panther's two sons.
Okay.
And he also apparently did ADR for Hocus Pocus, Starship Troopers, and Predator 2. For anybody who doesn't know this little bit of industry speak, ADR means automated dialogue replacement. And it basically means that they had some scenes where they needed some kind of voice in the background or something that they didn't have. So they brought him into the booth to record a voice over it.
So he just provided various grunts.
Probably like grunts or like background chatter. Yeah. Oh, there's the brown one, right? Who seems to be
Yes.
Cubert Fawns.
Yes.
He's played by Frank Welker.
I know that.
Yes, we've talked about Frank Welker loads of times because he's in many things. I think the first time we mentioned him was when he played Chomp Chomp in the Pac-Man cartoon.
No. Oh, I was just thinking about Chomp Chomp the other day. He's haunting me.
But Frank Welker is in almost everything. Probably best known for being the voice of Fred from Scooby-Doo for the entire existence of Scooby-Doo. He was the original Fred and he's still Fred.
Wow.
Yeah. I think he's also Scooby-Doo now, but he wasn't the original Scooby. He's also both of Nibbler's voices in Futurama, the deep one and the high-pitched one. He's a very talented actor who's been acting for a very long time. And I think he actually has the confirmed longest list of credits of like any voice actor, or possibly any actor in history.
Wow.
I actually saw a video of him earlier today doing the lion roars from The Lion King, and it's just him at a microphone with a trash can, and he's just like growling and roaring into this trash can. It was great. I saw it on
What a
Twitter earlier.
job.
I know, and that was the 90s. That was him in the 90s doing that, and he's still doing it to this day.
It's roaring into that same trash can.
This is my lion can. I'm
He's not even getting paid to do it.
I'm gonna have to get a different can if you want an elephant noise.
Tiger, different can.
The funniest thing about the video is that he's like roaring into this trash can for like a solid minute. And then it's being filmed from outside the booth, like through the glass. So you can see the guys out there like working the knobs and dials and everything. And then once he's done roaring, he just looks up at them and they just like, yeah, that was great, and give him a thumbs up. And it's like suddenly really professional. Like he wasn't just roaring into a trash can.
I mean, I feel that way about acting in general, where you have some kind of wild or intense scene, and then suddenly the cameras are off and you have to act like you weren't just doing naked jumping jacks.
Yeah, like you weren't just doing the Turtle Club scene from Master of Disguise.
Yeah.
There's a purple one at the table. I'm pretty sure she said that she's freaking out to the max, but her voice was really hard to understand.
I'm freaking out to the max!
I'm pretty sure that that one is Q Val. I think that's her name.
That's the dumbest name I've ever heard.
She is played by Robbie Lee, who played Lace in Switchblade Sisters.
Cool.
Lace is the leader of the gang that Switchblade Sisters is about. It's a movie about a gang of teenage punk girls, I guess. I don't know. They're the Switchblade Sisters.
Not to be confused with the Scissor Sisters.
No, that's a different gang. She also played Audrey Moss in $6 Million Man. Audrey Moss apparently was a recurring psychic kid, but I never watched that show.
No, me neither.
And she played Zipper Cat in The Get Along Gang, which I don't really know what it is.
Mm-mm.
And she played Twink and Shy Violet in Rainbow Bright.
I've heard that name before.
Me too. I think she was an actual kid during this, which is rare, especially when it comes to like female characters.
Yeah.
So over at the next table, we have Viper using toxic masculinity to incite violence.
I love that you can tell that these guys are the bad guys because their booth is a mess.
Yeah.
There's crap all over the floor. They've knocked their cups over.
And plus they're all dressed in a way that is somewhere in between 50s greaser and Nazi officer.
Yeah, I think they went a little bit too heavy on the greaser gang.
It's the hats. It's the hats for me that did it. I was like, what is that?
The hats kind of read leather daddy to me.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. They're a little bit village people, I guess.
They're a little bit village people.
I liked them. I liked all of these guys.
I hated them.
They're all from
I
the.
hated every last one of them.
Oh, did you? I liked them because they're terrible. Right?
They were terrible.
We have Coily, Ugg, and Wrongway, who are all from the game, and are all played by Frank Welker. This is the Frank Welker show, basically.
I mean, good for him, I guess. But I'm sure they didn't pay him what he needed to.
No, I'm sure they didn't pay him fairly for voicing everyone in this show. And then we have Viper, the one female. She's not from the game, but they obviously thought the villains needed a girlfriend.
Well, see, it was the 50s, so your gender binary is you're either Mae West or James Cagney.
That's true.
So they needed their Mae West.
Yeah. Viper is played by Julie McWhirter, who played Jeannie in the animated version of Jeannie, which I didn't know existed. Why was every sitcom getting an animated version?
Because they didn't have anything better to do.
She also played Bubbles in Jabberjaw. That was one of the members of the band that hung out with Jabberjaw. Because every 70s cartoon was just a gang of teens in a band hanging out with one talking animal and solving mysteries.
Or car.
Or a car, yeah. She was also the voice of Casper in the late 70s. She played Baby Smurf, and she played Alfalfa, Porky, and Woim in the Little Rascals animated series.
Cool.
Another live-action sitcom that got animated for no reason.
However, the 90s movie was very necessary.
Oh yeah, I lost my baseball at that movie.
Is that a euphemism?
No, I left my baseball in the theater.
Oh.
I had a baseball that my grandparents had actually brought back from America, and it was like a proper... It's the only time in my life I've held like a real baseball. I was like, whoa, this thing's huge and heavy. And I just took it everywhere for a little while. and then I left it at the Little Rascals.
And Alfalfa reached out and took it from you.
Yeah, I guess so. Of the villains, who did you find the most unsettling?
Let's see, what did I call them? I'm gonna have to find in my notes because it's been a while since I've watched it. They're only vague, unsettling shapes in my head right now.
Okay.
Well, I guess I used his correct name. I did not like Wrong Way.
Okay, yeah, no, same. It's funny because just looking at them, you would think that Ugg would be the most unsettling to watch. But
Mhm.
what was freaky about Wrong Way is that he just kept repeating everything he heard while staring into the middle distance.
Are you gonna let him make a monkey out of you?
Yeah, he's gonna make a monkey out of you.
Yeah,
It's like
that was the whole thing.
he was never looking at anyone. He was always just staring straight. I'm not convinced those were eyes. Maybe they're just markings on his fur. I don't know.
Yeah, like when butterflies have those markings to make them think that they're eyes.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't think he's okay anyway.
For sure, he's not. I don't think he's aware of what universe he's in.
No, he just every now and then he hears a phrase and he repeats it while laughing maniacally.
To be fair, something that I myself do.
Yeah, but you've set the expectation. This came out of nowhere. So anyway, the bad guys want to steal Q Bert's disc at this point.
Yeah. We've been told that Q Bert made the disc himself,
Oh, have we?
and it's a very special disc.
Okay. Do you think all the boring discs that everyone else has later in the episode are the store-bought ones?
Maybe. They really don't give us any information on anything at all.
Well, no. To be fair, they only had 10 minutes, so...
I guess.
So now we get to see Q Bert's house, which I feel
Yeah.
looks a little bit too normal.
It's not cube-shaped enough.
Yeah, it's not like weirdly colored enough.
Yeah, I was expecting something a bit more Pac-Man, a bit more wacky.
Yeah, same. He's hanging out here with Q Bert, a very tiny Q Bert.
Is that like his brother or something?
I don't know, maybe. But he's helping Q Bert shine his disc by... Q Bert picks him up and, like, squeezes him, and then it shoots air out of his nose.
Out of his Q-Bert snoot?
Yeah. Is this an ability only Q Bert has? Could Q Bert just be doing that himself?
Maybe he just wanted to make him feel like he was helping.
Maybe. Q Bert is one of the most interesting actors in this show to me.
Why?
So Q Bert is played by Dick Beals, who was aged 56 when this show came out.
Playing a tiny infant child?
Yeah, very convincingly.
Interesting.
So Dick Beals apparently had a glandular problem, so he never went through puberty.
Oh.
So he was 4'7" and had a high voice. So he spent his entire career playing children in TV shows.
I mean, if you got it.
Yeah. Apparently he's best known for being the voice of the Speedy Alka-Seltzer commercials.
What?
Yeah. I looked up a couple of them. It's just a little kid telling you to buy Alka-Seltzer.
All over America for fast relief, it's Speedy Alka-Seltzer. It's Speedy Alka-Seltzer, on that most folks agree. The choice of every party in Washington, D.C.
Cool.
He was the original voice of Davy from Davy and Goliath, and he played a lot of miscellaneous child roles in Flintstones and Jetsons and stuff like that. And he played Reggie Van Doe in Richie Rich, who apparently was Richie's spoiled cousin. And he played...
Someone more spoiled than Richie himself?
Well, yeah, because Richie is spoiled in... Yeah, Richie's just spoiled, I guess. The only Richie Rich I'm actually familiar with is the Macaulay Culkin one, so I don't know much about it.
You're just talking out your butthole.
Yeah, maybe he's a little dick. I don't know.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah. Dick Beals also played Pinocchio in Pinocchio's Revenge.
That just sounds so sinister.
It is. It's a horror movie.
Oh.
I don't know who he's getting revenge on, but I feel like we should watch it.
I mean, you know I'm down to watch any old horror movie.
Oh, I know that about you.
Aren't they coming out with like a Pooh Bear horror movie?
Yes. Didn't I send you the
I'll watch
trailer?
Yeah, that's probably where I saw it.
I think I sent you the trailer. Oh, this is where Q Ball shows up in his car.
That's right. I thought it was like a Wacky Racers mobile.
Yeah, it sure looked like one. It kind of looks like Speed Buggy, but green.
A little bit, yeah.
But QT is in the car with him, right? But she isn't addressed. I was confused about this character.
I was confused about this character because his name is Q Ball and he's not bald.
Well, yeah, that too. No, I'm talking about QT, though. First of all, she's played by Robbie Lee again, the same person who was playing Q Val earlier. The opening really made me think that she was Q-Bert's love interest because she's dancing with him in the opening.
Mm-hmm.
But then every time we see her in this show, she's with Q-Ball, and it looks much more like she's dating him.
Maybe as the show progresses, she realizes she's in a toxic relationship with Q Ball and falls in love with Q Bert.
Maybe, but it sure
But
seems
by that
like...
point, Q Bert is too hard into crystal meth.
You mean crystal meth?
I don't, but
She was sitting with Q-Ball at the dinner at the pizza place. Q-Ball was in between her and Q-Bert, and now she's here in Q-Ball's car with him. So I don't know. I did find something on the internet that said that maybe she's Q-Bert's sister and not his love interest, but it seems like the internet's also confused about what her role is. So
I don't know. But I love that you're interpreting this like it's the Last Supper.
yeah, of course. That's the only time in my life I've seen a table that long, aside from this.
Aside from the time Jesus had all his friends over.
Yeah.
They all sat on one side of the table.
Yeah, what was that about? Well, that's what they did here as well. All the Q-Berts were sitting on one side of the table.
Are we going to have to juxtapose this with the Last Supper to find out the biblical meaning of Q Bert? Who is Judas? That's the real question I'm getting at.
Is it Q-Ball?
Maybe. Maybe it's Q Bit.
Maybe it is. Was he? I don't know if he was even at the table now that you mention it.
I have no idea if he was.
There was so many characters at the table. Is it possible that there was one missing? Here's the thing I don't like about QT, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of all the Q-Berts, they all look fine, but then she's this like flesh color Q-Bert.
Yeah.
She looks like a knockoff Miss Piggy. She's the same color and she's got the blonde hair. She doesn't have many lines, if any.
No, she didn't leave an impression on my notes.
Yeah, really it's just that. I don't think I said anything else about her for the rest of it. So Q-Ball shows up and says they should go check the race course for traps. But Q-Bert, intelligently, worries that his disc will get stolen by Coily if he leaves it.
What I don't understand is why he couldn't just bring it with him since he
Right?
brought it with him everywhere else.
That's what I've written here. Yeah, he could easily just bring it with him. He's got it tucked under his arm as he mentions that he's afraid to leave it behind.
He had it at a pizza place.
But lucky for him, Sam and Slick show up and offer to watch it for him.
Oh my god, these two random green idiots.
So these are the guys in the game who don't hurt you but will change the colors of your blocks back.
Uh-huh.
So I think they've like pretty accurately translated them here into two bumbling idiots who are like, they're not antagonists, but they screw up everything.
Right, like Hubert's still on friendly terms with them, but he's not happy about it.
He says,
I know I shouldn't trust you, green goofballs, but, well, okay.
and that's logic you can't argue with.
And then he just throws it into a pile in the garage.
Of the open garage that he doesn't close when he leaves. And Ugg and Wrongway, of course, immediately appear to steal it as the second he's gone.
Of course. They're barely off camera.
Sam and Slick, by the way, both played by Frank Welker.
This is the Frank Welker show.
I told you. I'm
And
not
we
even
should do all
done.
girl voices too.
I'm not even done listing all the characters that Frank Welker plays in this.
Oh my god.
There's
I didn't
more.
even think that there were more. Oh, there is. There's the. Oh, we'll get to him.
But yes, he is Frank Welker when we get there. The racist jabs that they throw back and forth at each other here. Because, like, Ugg calls Slick a green goon, and then Slick calls Ugg a purple pinhead. Like, why do they have to mention the color of each other's skin or fur? It could just be left out.
Because it was a cartoon in the 80s depicting the 50s. Also, they probably don't view race the same way we do.
They do. You know they do. That's what I want to write the... What's the name of this show? Q Bert. I want to write the Q Bert reboot where it deals with the racism. Why are all the bad guys purple? Why do we hate all the purple guys? Why do the purple guys have to sit at a separate table?
I don't think I will be watching this Netflix show.
You will by the 4th season when it's really gone off the rails.
That's true. I am very interested in Riverdale.
Wrong way. No, Ugg. Ugg juggles Sam and Slick for a long time. It's just looping animation. It's like maybe 10 frames that just loop over and over.
They were really struggling to fill this 10-minute time slot.
I know. So Wrong Way switches the disc with an inflatable one. He just blows it up like a balloon. And I'm like, wouldn't you immediately know as soon as you touched it that that's
as soon
a pool
as you
floater?
looked at it and noticed that they weren't even the same shape?
Yeah, not the same shape. This one is very clearly full of air. But he doesn't notice, so he takes his inflatable disc for a test drive. And ends up stuck in a chimney.
Oh yeah, good times.
And this is where he makes the Q Bert noise.
He did. He swore very loudly and they had to censor it.
Yeah. After seeing this, I did a little bit of research on the Q Bert noise. So it's voice produced by a speech synthesizer. That it was originally supposed to say actual words, but they couldn't get it to produce coherent sentences. So, like, the example that I found was that the word bonus sounded like bogus coming from the synthesizer.
Mm-hmm.
So,
that's a real word.
Yeah. So the guy who was programming it just threw in some random numbers instead to see what would happen, and then used the gibberish that came from it as Q Bert's voice.
Math is gibberish. That's what it sounds like in my head.
I love that he crashes into that chimney, right? And then his friends are just immediately on the roof.
I mean, they took a disc up there probably. I don't know.
They took
That's
a real one.
apparently what Hubert does.
They pull him out, and then they go to the drive-in, because that's where Coily and his friends hang out, apparently.
Yeah, they know this somehow, and would you look at that? They just happen to be exactly there.
Of course. This is what kids in the 50s did. They went to the drive-in. Because they meet their other friends there as well.
Yeah, I have a note about the movie they were watching.
Yeah.
It's playing a movie about a scary snail that sounds like a race car. It undulates menacingly.
Yeah, it's a horror movie about a big snail. And Q Val, Q Mungus, and someone else are watching it.
Humongous. I hate that guy.
Yeah, I don't know what the name of the other girl is. I could not find it anywhere. If anybody knows what that character is called, please tell me. But Q Bert and his friends arrive, and they split up to look everywhere. And the three who were already here also join in, but they haven't been told what they're looking for. They just know.
Yeah. But then they get out of the car, and Humongous just picks it up to look under it in a scene that goes on entirely too long.
I didn't even write anything about this scene.
I did because it bothered me.
What was it? It was just he picks it up and then the unnamed one comes over to tell him he's stupid or something, and then he...
Basically,
Yeah.
We have to look everywhere. Nope, he's not under here.
Come on, Bean Brain!
There wasn't much to it.
no. It was like that scene in Donkey Kong Country where they were going to steal Funky's surfboard, and it just went on so
Yeah.
What is with these scenes of strong, dumb characters taking 5 minutes to let us know they are both strong and dumb?
Hey, if that's all they have, they gotta take some time to do it.
I don't think that is all they have.
Yeah,
I think that they have hearts of gold.
I think they do too, and I think Humongous could be the breakout character of this cast if he was just given the time to shine.
Being too harsh on Humongous. It's not his fault that they let the camera linger on him.
That's true. It's not his fault that they thought it was funny that he thinks slowly.
Right. Like, haha, what's funnier than somebody who is not as mentally swift as me?
Yeah.
The answer is no one, because it's the 80s and it was rife with bullying.
The answer is it's not funny because he can pick up a car, so be nice to him.
Throw it at you.
But I get the feeling that he's a big, kind-hearted guy. I don't think he'd get mad.
He should.
He should, but I don't think he has it in him.
He deserves better friends.
He does. So they find Coyley's car, and they just pop open the trunk. And Ugg and Wrongway are just in there.
Waiting for exactly that moment.
And they're mad that Q Bert's being nosy, right? They're mad at Q Bert for opening the trunk. So I have two possible theories, right?
Mm-hmm.
Either they were in there making out,
Yes.
or they were sent to the trunk so that the snakes could make out in the front seat. Snake out.
See, I think they were put in the trunk because the snakes didn't want to have to pay for more people.
Oh, but then why wouldn't
and then
they...
just forgot to take them out.
Yeah, they're still waiting in there for the signal that it's safe. So that the snakes can snake out. So this is the drive-in chase sequence.
It's very stupid.
Q Bert's hopping across the car roofs, and they're all changing color as he hops on them. They're really, really trying really hard to remind us that this is the video game.
They sure are.
This is the point. So I just left the chase running while I was making that note about the roofs changing color.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought the chase was over, but it continued.
Sure did.
It
Went on for a while.
It just kept going. I think it's because Coyley stops at one point and talks to his henchman, and I was like, okay, the chase is done. But then it just kind of starts back up again.
Yeah. But it's like somebody else chasing now.
Yeah. Here's a line I wrote down.
Time to blast him with my Slippy Doo.
Isn't that when he inks up the top of a car.
Yeah, he
And they slip and fall.
he pulls out a weird black ball, stuffs it in his nose, and then he just fires it back out. This is one of those things, if I didn't know any better, I would think that this was a thing from the game. I would just assume that this was an item from the game and you could shoot it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not. It's nothing from the game. Slippy
Nothing
Doos.
This game, but once we get that Q Bert kart racer,
I wonder how many kids watched this cartoon and then they were like, "What? How do you get the Slippy Doos? I've never found that in the game." And then went to their friends and they were like, "Guys, did you see the cartoon? We need to figure out how you get the Slippy Doos."
and that's how you create a speedrunner. Becomes so obsessed with the inner workings of the game that he becomes a monster.
Yeah. I spent 30 years trying to find Slippy Doos in Q Bert. I don't think they're in there.
I found out how to beat the entire game in 13 seconds, but damn if I can't find those Slippy Doos.
Also, what a stupid name.
I know.
I hate it. So now it's
And
time.
now we're at the race.
Now we're at the race. So the race announcer, right?
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely thought that he said, "Welcome to Q-Berg's annual shit derby."
Welcome to Q Bert's annual shit derby.
He said disc derby, I assume, but it really sounded like shit derby to me. And now I
If
want to
only.
participate in a shit derby.
That would be a much better cartoon.
It's just a competition where you have to like create gossip about your rivals in the race.
I just like that pretty much as soon as they get there, Cue Ball has to remind Q Bert to watch out for Coily, as if we haven't spent the last 10 minutes of the show watching out for Coily.
Q-Ball's been obsessed with Coily this whole episode.
Maybe that's what happens. Cue Ball leaves QT for Coily.
Oh, there we go. And then she finds a supportive shoulder to cry on in Q Bert.
Yeah, but Q Bert's whacked out of his mind.
They end up married with 3 kids, but she never really got over Q-Ball.
She never really got over the sting of him leaving her for another man.
She thinks about him all the time. And she likes Q-Bert, sure. He's really nice. He treats her well.
He's safe.
He's safe. But it's just never been the same.
It wasn't that hot, passionate love
Yeah.
that she felt for Cue Ball.
Yeah. Behind the drive-through screen. The drive-in screen. You know what I mean.
Underneath the car that Q-Mungus picked up.
Coily has glued Q-Bert's disc to the ground somehow.
They are just trying to ruin this guy's day a million different times.
Like realistically, Q-Bert takes such a long time to realize his disc has been glued to the ground and then deal with it that he should have lost the race. And the fact that he was able to catch up again means that there's realistically no way anybody could have beaten him.
Well, yeah, because they all have those store-bought discs.
Oh, that's
slash
true.
cubes.
The rubber banding
they
in
all
this
have
race
a
is ridiculous.
cube.
Yeah. I think most of the other discs are square. It's weird.
It's weird to see this cube just kind of scuffing along across the ground as a mode of transport.
Yeah. I really hate the part where Q-Bert elongates his apparently prehensile nose and uses it to snap the glue. I hate it.
It was weird.
It was
It was
horrible.
weird.
It was uncomfortable to look at. I had never considered the nose to be long and malleable like that until that happened.
No, you'd think of it as a noodle.
Yeah. I don't. Take that out of the episode. Go back to 1983 and remove this part. But yeah, I have a note here about how everybody else has really boring discs and Q-Bert's is twice as fast and 4 times as colorful.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else's disc just has 1 color and his has 4.
Because he made it with love.
He did. He made it with love, and it's the Apple loading symbol.
It's a Simon board.
It is. It is. Yeah. I've gone wrong way are in an alley. They've set a trap. What do they like? They're like pulling a piece of rubber out or something, stretching it across the road.
Yeah, they're trying to set up a tripwire.
That's right. But Q Bert jumps it and Slippy Doos them.
Slippy Doos.
It sounds like the name of Scooby's pet frog.
One of his dumb cousins.
Yeah. Who like lives in a swamp.
Lives in a water park.
Slippy Dippy Doo.
Ugh.
It's probably been done.
I'm sure it has on the Scooby-Doo fan wiki.
I meant for real in the actual show, but because there's a period where they were just creating like 1 million relatives for him, right?
Yeah,
I bet that's been one of them at some point.
probably. I wouldn't be surprised.
Q Bert crashes through a store, right?
Yes.
And he comes out holding a human mannequin?
Yeah.
Like, why does this world of Q Bert's have a human mannequin in it? Who are these
I'm
clothes for?
gonna, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that they didn't put a whole lot of thought into their world building.
That's true. That's probably fair. But yeah, as Q Bert comes up on the finish line, Coily puts a garbage can on his head.
Yeah.
Which
His final scheme.
which really doesn't impact the race in any meaningful way.
Right, they're on a straightaway at this point.
Yeah, and then Q Bert just puts it back on Coily. And where Q Bert easily figured out how to lift the garbage can off of his head, Coily doesn't quite have the same presence of mind.
The same wherewithal.
Yeah. They come up on the finish line and Q Bert stretches his nose out again so that they could make a winner by a nose joke.
Mm-hmm. He cheats his way to the finish.
Yeah. Good life lessons from Q Bert there. And
If you're behind, stretch your nose ahead.
And Coily doesn't know the race is over because there's a garbage can on his head. So he keeps
That means
going
he can't
forever.
hear.
Yeah, he can't hear. He chases his friends by accident. They're
To
all
this day, Coily's still going.
with his friends running ahead of him. They were all too dumb to just step to the side. They all did the Prometheus thing.
Yeah. If only they just stepped to the side.
And now it's the concert. I forgot all about the concert.
Yeah, they've sent us on a million different plots.
The band is all made out of Q-Berts of different sizes and colors, except for the lead singer, I guess, who is some kind of green serpent dragon, who is drawn as though they are just screaming into the mic in extended anguish.
But we don't hear any singing at all.
There are no vocals in the song, yep. I thought it was very funny, and I love that serpent dragon. He should have his own show. Or she, I don't know what it was. And yeah, the episode ends with them all, they're all at the concert, and the focus is on Q Bert, who has barely been in the episode, and how he has the best seat in the house because he's sitting on Q Bert's head, I guess.
The end.
The end. What a weird ending.
What a weird show.
Yeah, so this episode is only 10 minutes long, and it had several sequences that felt like they were drawn out to fill extra time.
Yeah.
And yet it feels like so much happened.
But also nothing happened.
Yeah, I guess it's just because they took us to so many different locations. But like more happened in these 10 minutes than happened in the last half-hour Maniac Mansion that we watched. Right? We watched a half-hour Maniac Mansion where nothing happened.
Yeah.
And
Or the entirety of Mars of Destruction.
yeah, that's true. And then we have this, which is half as long as both of those, but
But it sure covered a lot of
a
ground.
ton of stuff happened, and yet it feels like nothing happened.
It was a very strange experience.
It was.
Like, I was trying to think back on the episode earlier in preparation for this, and I was like, is this all the same episode? I'm so confused.
It
I can't
feels.
remember anything, and yet I remember everything.
It definitely feels like 3 episodes to me. It feels
Yeah.
like the disc race episode, the drive-in episode, and the concert episode. And we just watched random scenes from each of them mashed together.
Loosely making a cohesive story.
It does make a cohesive story. I'll give it that. I do have some. I have some respect for the writers of this one because I can see that they were trying, and also knowing the story of how they were trying to make a real Q Bert show, and then they were kind of forced to do this instead. So, good for you, creators of Q Bert the cartoon. I'm sorry that your cartoon was this.
Sorry you didn't get to make what you wanted.
Yeah, I would be really interested to see what they actually wanted to make. But that's very rarely what happens in the entertainment industry, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You have to be a pretty big name to get to make the thing you wanted to make unchanged.
Well, I know you have years of experience in this field, but I have more money than you, and I say make it Happy Days.
It's literally, yeah. At least it wasn't just some like random executive saying that though. I'd feel worse about it if it was like random executive who'd never made anything.
Yeah.
At least it's the creator of Scooby-Doo telling you to ruin your show.
What if he intentionally tried to sabotage Q Bert so that Scooby-Doo would be the uncontested king for a million years?
He spent his whole career just trying to bring everything down to boost Scooby-Doo back up.
Yeah.
Because I
If
guess
you look into it, you see he's got his finger in every pie.
this will have been the period where like Scooby-Doo fatigue started setting in.
Which is wild because Scooby-Doo continues to this day.
I know,
And
but
I've been fatigued for 30 years.
I mean, it definitely had a period. I want to say between because this was while the Scooby and Scrappy show was airing, which I think is like the point where most people were like, "I think I've had enough Scooby-Doo."
Yeah, because Scrappy sucks.
Yeah, they took out Fred, Velma, and Daphne, and it was just like Scooby, Shaggy, and Scrappy having adventures.
And all of his dumb relatives.
Yeah, and I think most people agree that that's like a low point for Scooby-Doo. And then I think Scooby-Doo didn't really make a big comeback until Cartoon Network made that Zombie Island movie.
That movie was good.
I still haven't seen it. I keep meaning to because everyone says it was good.
As much as I want to poop forever on Scooby-Doo, I do really like Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about it, and it like revitalized the brand, so it has to be good.
Then they started making Scooby-Doo movies once a year. And like they were decent for a while. Nothing ever lived up to the grandeur of Zombie Island, but they were fun before it burned us out like Land Before Time.
I feel like Scooby-Doo has more legs to it than Land Before Time, though.
Oh, for sure.
It's wild to me to this day that they made a second Land Before Time, let alone the other 50.
50.
Because Land Before Time is such a self-contained story with such a definitive ending.
Yeah.
They're trying to get to the valley, and then they get to the valley. The end. You don't need to go anywhere else with that.
You don't need to, but unfortunately I see the potential for more because it's an entire prehistoric world that you can move within.
Yeah, but you always have the knowledge that they're gonna die.
Yeah, but not yet. Until then, they can sing and dance their way to friendship.
I need them to make I hope that the last one is like Extinction Event.
Considering that these are rated G.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Dinosaurs, the Jim Henson show?
No.
It's good. It was a sitcom. It's like a puppet sitcom from the 90s about dinosaurs. They like wear clothes and live like people.
I'm familiar with what it is, but I never watched it.
It's really good. They put it on Disney Plus recently, and I rewatched it for the first time since it originally aired, and I was shocked at how funny it was, and also how annoyingly prescient it is. Because most of the I mean, it's the last thing Jim Henson was working on when he died, and a lot of Jim Henson's political beliefs are extremely apparent in it, which means it's an extremely anti-capitalist show. And the last episode...
I don't think capitalism existed when dinosaurs were alive.
No, but the idea of the show is that... so the last episode, the dinosaurs actually do bring about their own extinction. And it's capitalism that kills them. So they end up triggering the Ice Age through capitalism.
That's fun.
And it's, we're currently trying to trigger a heat age with capitalism, so...
No, we're trying to build a giant thing to block the sun.
Listen, we can't do that personally until we've finished our machine to throw water balloons at Mars.
Listen, we've got multiple teams. We've got the
No,
water balloon team, and we've got the sun blocking team.
no, we've got multiple teens, and pretty soon we're going to have to start paying them adult rates if we don't finish making these things.
Listen, they don't know what adults are.
They don't know the labor laws.
They don't know where they are. They don't know if their families are still alive.
They don't know how to get out of this school we've locked them in.
They don't know what Monokuma is.
Do you want to know about the legacy of the Q Bert show?
I do,
Because there's something.
which is wild.
So, remember we talked about QT, the one that I said I hated?
Uh-huh.
She's canon now in the games.
Okay.
She was absent for like 20 years, and then she was adopted into the games in Q Bert Rebooted in 2014. She looks completely different.
You mean she's not from the 50s anymore?
Not just that. And for anybody listening who can't see this, just go to the Q Bert wiki, which I was surprised to find exists. And
There's a wiki for everything.
and look for... Well, you know, the Q Bert wiki doesn't know the name of that one character I couldn't find out the name of.
They don't work miracles.
They should. So here's what QT looks like in the games.
Oh, it's horrible. I love it.
It almost looks like Birdo, right? But with no body.
Yeah.
It's like Birdo's...
Scrawny little legs.
It's like Birdo's head on some scrawny little legs, yeah.
She looks so concerned.
I would too if I was that.
Me too.
Yeah, the wiki here does say that it's Q Bert's little sister. But that might just be what she is in the game.
You're telling me that the show is not canon?
I don't know what the show is.
A mess.
They tried. God, I'm looking at some of the other episode titles for the game, and here's one that stood out to me. Rebel Without a Cause.
I don't like it.
It's with a Q.
I don't like it.
Apparently the second episode is called The Great QT Contest, so maybe her relationship to Q Bert will be cleared up in episode 2 if we ever watch it.
Maybe every year they have to establish a new QT. and then they kill the old one.
I guess so. If the contest is named after her,
Yeah.
or she's named after the contest, maybe.
Maybe this new Coily looks so concerned because she knows that she has a year to be QT before they turn her into Q burgers.
Q burgers.
I'm pretty sure that was in the show, and I'm not clever.
It was. That was the place next to
Yes, it
Q
was
Pizza.
Q Pizza.
Yep. I don't have anything more to say about this.
No, I was trying to come up with something, but there really aren't words to describe
No,
the 11 or so minutes we wasted watching that.
we've cubed all of these Berts.
We turned all of the cubes to the appropriate color, and at the end, we still are hungry.
And we always will be.
The Enertron gives you energy, but you're still hungry.
Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. You can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/superbreakfastfriendsclub if you want to support this madness.
If you yourself want a Q burger, give us money, and we'll not change that for you.
But we'll think about it real hard. What else? Coffee. If you want to donate to us through coffee, coffee.com/superbreakfastfriendsclub is the port in a storm for you.
You can come to our taverns where we have many a buxom woman.
You can follow us on Twitter at sbreakfastfc. You can find me in places at Skull Pirate Mike. Don't look for Mel. You won't find.
Don't stare into that void. I will not stare back.
And believe me, that's the outcome you want.
If I direct my fury at you, you'll never want to exist again.
And thank you to our current only Patreon subscriber, my mom.
Our one and only truest fan.
the truest fan you can get, your own parent.
Why would you ever want a better fan than your own parent?
I don't think you could find one, because really, it's them being proud of their own work, right?
Yes and no. Like, you put as much of yourself into rearing a child as you can, but it's still like 50% RNG.
That's true. Bye.
Well, I took pills and I drank a lot of water, but it's still there a little bit.
I
'Cause-
took pills, I drank a lot of water. Sorry.